Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's Quilting Nerd, and today we are still focusing on different types of texture and how we can produce great results with varying the density of our quilting and how we can achieve that. So today I am concentrating on different types of grids that we can produce. And the first two squares that I want to quilt with you are divided with lines that are crossing in the center, and they are dividing my square into 16 wedges. It's a weird word. And you can, sometimes I will be quilting the marked lines. Sometimes I will be just using them as orientation points. So in this case, I will be kind of doing both, because the pattern I'm using will be, I will have to finish on the marked line, so this line will be quilted anyway. And of course, I could start with back and forth lines, but we did that quite a lot lately, so this time I will try to use some nice arches. So I just selected one of the sections and I am filling it with arches. Again, it is white on white or gray on cream fabric. I am trying to be as regular as possible, but also I'm trying to have some nice density here. And you know very well in between why, because we want to suppress part of the volume down, so then we have this very large difference in texture between the different sections of our patch. So now I'm done, and now I want to continue going in the same direction, so I want to have my arches radiating from the middle, but I will not do that for every section. I will actually now leave one empty and I will go to the next one. It will be a little bit like a spider web. This marking you can also use to produce a spider web pattern. I did it once, it's really fun one. I will have to come back to that. And now we will just keep filling every second section. It's a little bit tricky at the beginning because we have very tiny space and all of it is hidden under the foot, so you have to be careful with your movement. Very nice and relaxing pattern. We just quilt echoes of arches. We can always rotate the sandwich, and in a moment we will see the emerging pattern and the emerging texture. We can have different kinds of grids. When we say word grid, means For most of us it means some square or square on points, which I also have here. We can have the 60-degree diamond grid, which looks great, but this kind of pattern which I have, it's also grid. It's just using different type of coordinate. We are dividing our space radially. I can feel also that my quilt is densely quilted on one side, because I have a little bit of a problem moving it because it's much stiffer, so I have to account for it to avoid problems, so I'm not getting stuck. So this starts looking really, really good. Yeah, you see, I got stuck here because the quilt doesn't want to fold behind the machine. This is kind of one of the more challenging things when you have a larger project and you have this increased, maybe not weight, but it's much more difficult to move the quilt when it's very densely quilted, because it's not flexible anymore. So moving it may be related with using some more force, and then suddenly it will move, and then you will kind of overbalance. That's why taking breaks on larger quilts is so important, so you can make sure that you have this flexible mobility with your project. And we have last section left. I will remove the markings just with water later on, and it will disappear very nicely. So now I traveled on part of the lines, but not for all of them. So now I have to kinda account for it, otherwise I will have problems. And again, I have to find my ruler here. So it's every second line. And I think we are done. So I will just finish on top here, so the side is also secured. And now this part is done. And it looks really nice because we enhanced with the texture the radiation factor. Yeah, so it's anyway, it's like a star bursting from the middle, and then we have those arches radiating also on the outside, and it looks, we have very nice texture. And I will show you a photo after I'm done. So I will take a photo after I remove the lines, so then the texture is even better visible. Now we have here another square, this time in black, and I made similar markings, as you can see. So again, I have my lines radiating from the middle, but this time I will quilt it a little bit differently. The square is secure, and now let us quilt a nice large flower, also using arches, and let's see how it will look like. So this time I'm using the lines only for orientation purpose. I will be not quilting on them. So let's quilt arch from the corner down to the middle, taking care that it's touching here the line. Now I will go up with another arch, also touching here the side. In this way, I am ensuring that my petals are very nice and symmetrical, or look symmetrical, even if they are not. But I want to have as many equal looking elements as possible. This is a very nice and continuous design and allows you to move easily from one place to the other. So now that the flower is done, the question is, let me change the camera shortly so you can see the flower. Now that the flower is done, the question is which kind of elements we want to leave popping up and which ones we want to suppress. And I actually would like to leave those large ones more pronounced than anything else. That means I have to suppress all the elements from the edge, those corners, but also those small ones. So let's see what we can do with that. And for that I will actually use stipples here in the larger elements and very dense back and forth lines in the flower. So let me readjust the camera so the needle is in the middle. And let's see how it will look like at the end. Now you know how it looks like without suppressing, so we have a lot of volume going on with just those small lines. Pressing the batting down, and now let's use stipples. They have to be relatively dense. My batting is also a little bit thicker in this place. I don't like when that happens because it may cause problems when operating with a ruler. I almost slipped on the top of my ruler because I couldn't press the batting down. So that's one. Back and forth lines would also work here very good. Stipples are a little bit more challenging here, so they are more like wriggly lines, but they are doing the job, and that's the most important thing. So let's pull the wriggly lines here, just to be as consistent as possible. I noticed that when I have such tiny elements, I prefer to move slower but at higher speeds of my needle. So my stitches are actually very tiny here, smaller than in any other part of the quilt, but like that my this tiny quilting looks smoother actually. So that's additional reason why I'm not using stitch regulator. I can then adjust on my whim. Also, I want to move this part slower, because here I have to be pretty precise with my movements. And big part of the quilt is already quilted, so as I said, I have sometimes problems moving it because it gets stuck and it's not that flexible, it's not bending. So probably for you it is better if I quilt from this side. And actually this one could have been in the previous week as a standalone motif. So I did this kind of, I'm not doing this kind of quilting very often. Mostly it's for my wall hangings, because then I really can appreciate the texture. Sometimes pillows, but I use this on the Dream Big panel and Love of Color project from So Kind of Wonderful. And it was worth all the effort, because these are my two favorite wall hangings and they simply look so good. Here I should have gone first to this side, here into this corner, then come back to the other, because I want to go on suppressing those elements. So again, let's rotate and you can see immediately what I am talking about. This is really just popping out very nicely. So now let's suppress the middle and just let's use precise back and forth lines. And let's not hurry here. So my machine works a little bit faster, but my fabric is moving at the same speed, so I think I will enjoy having this quilt on my wall as well. The colors are not really mine. I am more like the autumn girl. I like the golds, the browns, reds, also spring colors, so lots of green, very pastel colors. This is a little bit tad too modern for me, but on the other hand it gives such a nice contrast, so it's perfect for filming. Look again completely different when I will remove the markings here. So let's just go down here for the symmetry of it and we can finish. And I must say this looks really good. I like it. You could really see how this is so nice and puffy and kind of juicy. I'm getting hungry actually. So that were the two different patterns, completely different. Started with very similar principle, so lines crossing in the middle, symmetrical designs, and this one just using different kind of approach to fill it, using exactly the same marking. In this case, I have here traditional square grid, and the easiest way to fill the square grid is to use arches and make the so-called orange peel design. So let's see how this will look like when we have such nice small grid. So for now we are using the grid as marking points. So I am going first the upper side, and now the on the sides, and we are using the same continuous design principle only in a miniature to fill the grid. It is the corner of the sandwich, so I have a little bit problem holding it because also the batting is so puffy. So let's repeat that. Grids are great because we can manipulate the size of our grid, and like that automatically influence the size of our quilting. It's also a very good exercise if you want to practice different designs in different sizes. Just use grid for to help you be consistent for certain sizes. It also helps you with spacing and practicing that. And again, I had one video about how to use grids to practice different designs. There are quite many videos, so I could just, if you look for inspiration, you can always check my channel. We are almost done here. You can see I am just repeating the same movement over and over again, and actually the design is relatively fast, despite the fact that I am using relatively small size. The spacing is just 1 inch. So we have one more row to go, and already this texture looks very nice. It's very uniform because the reduction of the size caused that the size of my petal is not that much smaller than the size of the center. But now you will say, okay, this is a nice uniform texture here. So let me again rotate it here. But this is not, we do not have this high density difference for now. So actually now I can try to remove the markings, and you can see this nice secondary patterns, the circles. But we would like to have actually more enhanced the petal shape, not the square one. And that would be the fastest way now to move on and introduce extra texture by quilting a small swirl in the middle. So let's see how this one will work. You don't have to, you could stop already here, and that's looking very, very good already. And now I will simply go row by row, traveling a little bit. Doing that while on a corner element is, and while trying to show it to you, it's a little bit difficult. Let's see, like that. Better. bit more time consuming, but all those dense, high density quilting is. So this is more patience training, I would put it that way. On the other hand, it's a great mental exercise because you have to concentrate so much on this what you're doing that you have to let go of the other problems, and in this way you can relax a little bit because you are giving yourself time to gain a distance, so you can approach the problem with completely different look the next day, or even in 1 hour. And now already you can see that this will look great. Again, also the thread, increased density of the thread, but you can also look how nice this texture is. And it is also a little bit of a game of playing with the size of the elements, but right now I think we got the size just right. Let me finish this one and I will show you how it is looking like when I'm done. And this element is finished and it's looking really lovely. It's looking because of this round swirls, I actually enhanced even more the round overlapping character of the whole pattern, despite the fact it started as orange peel, and I'm pretty sure it will reflect the light completely different. It will look extremely interesting when hanging on the wall. So that was the straight grid. Now we have 2 more, and let's start with one that it's squares but on point.